Hey guys, BBI here. I want to stop and say thanks for tuning in and checking out whatever the video is about that's about ready to come up next. If you could take a minute and hit subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy what you've seen here, make sure to hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Anyhow, guys, all that aside, let's get on with the show. So look at what's back, boys and girls. We all remember this from just a couple weeks ago, don't we? I do. It's like the X-Force, the pain in the ass that won't stop giving. So I disconnected the output tuning coil so we could all get in here and see what happened. Ready? So let's talk about this for a second. This amp fixed it, everything worked great on it, boxed it up, shipped it across the country to the customer, and somewhere along in shipping the relay broke off this wire, which goes over and runs the bias relay, and then broke off the keying circuit. You see that? So the customer, Mr. H, gets this thing and goes, "No, hooked up, it doesn't do nothing. It's all burned up, it doesn't do nothing." Oh, well, hold on. So I had him take the lid off, and he sent me some pictures. Now, over here in the corner, because the relay came off, the preamp ground lead also came off. But the main reason that this thing wouldn't key up is this wasn't hooked up. Now, the amp would have worked. I disconnected this, by the way. The amp would have worked if he could have seen to solder this onto here and then hooked up this one wire. So this wire popped off, and let me zoom in here. You're going to be able to resolve that? Okay, that's as close as I'm going to be able to get, and it'll still be in focus. This is what caused our problem. This wire broke off right here, off the key-in transistor. That's the reason the amp wouldn't work. Would not key up, wouldn't make any power. It was because of this little connection. Well, I seen this in the photos on the phone that he sent me. I'm like, dude, can you get in there with a soldering iron and just tack that on and then reattach this one white wire? He's like, I think so. So he said he got in here with a soldering iron and reattached this, but then it's broke off again. Now, up here on top, this poor little preamp, looks like the legs of the preamp snapped off as well. So instead of doing an insurance claim, which would have taken months to get it finished, and I would have had to pay my wife to do the claim, and over what? 120, 130 bucks? It would have cost me more to pay my wife to do the entire claim and us create all the paperwork that UPS is going to want to have over me just simply saying, here, take the thing to the UPS store, I will pay whatever it costs to have it shipped back here, and I will do my thing and I'll fix this. So I'm sitting here looking at this going, jeez. One broke little wire and the whole box won't work. So what we're going to do is I'm going to pull that relay out. I got to replace the double-sided stick tape that obviously has come off. We're going to replace that. And then we're going to repair the preamp and then put the whole thing back together. About $10 worth of parts, if that, maybe $5 worth of parts, well, $8 worth of parts, because I want to put a new key-in transistor in there. The legs on that thing have been flopped around too much. I don't trust them. Put new tape on it. We'll take the relay apart. We'll clean the connections on it. We're going to completely rebuild the keying circuit, as in replace the relay, unsolder the stuff, solder it back down, and make it so it's whole. And now I'm going to turn around out of my own pocket and I'm going to ship this back to Mr. H. To simply avoid, I mean, we're talking about $250 to get this whole thing fixed and running and everybody happy, versus me paying my wife $250, him being out his amp multiple more months, because it would have to sit here till the insurance claim was satisfied. And then at the end of the deal, I mean, I present them with like, what, a $300 bill? I'm just fixing the damn thing. So, needless to say, let me pluck this out of here. I got to disconnect this green wire and these two white wires. And we're going to take this out and let's do a repair on this real quick. See, this is exactly why I don't like preamps. That is a significant amount of mass hanging off the top side of this relay, and look at what failed. It's attachment point on the relay. Now, I happen to have another relay just sitting here because, well, it's my job to keep these kind of spare parts just floating around here so that I can just jump right in and do these kind of repairs. But, I mean, let's look at the bottom side of this tape. It's been floating around for a hot minute. This isn't... This day has been so effed up. Just effed up. That's all I'm going to say. You try every day with the best intentions at heart, and then you just got to deal with the curveballs that come. So I'm going to rip this relay off the top. And when I got the relay off the top, I'm going to clean the contact points in here because I don't want this thing coming back here for any reason. Not, I can't hear, or the contacts aren't making good contact, and I'm like, all you got to do is clean with a dollar bill. There's some other outlying circumstances with this customer to where I understand that this has got to be perfect. And it was perfect when I left here, and this is all broke up now. So, okay. Let's put a new preamp on, which means I'm going to put a new relay on the top, stuff that doesn't have the legs ripped off of it. And let's go ahead and let's get this thing working. So what I'm basically doing is, this is a jade embedded rod, or there's just enough abrasion material embedded in this rod to where I'm polishing the contact points. And I'm doing this with just the smallest amount of pressure. I'm not in here jamming my fingers down on nothing. We're just varnishing these contact points to make sure that they're clean. Small little circular pattern and back and forth, back and forth. And that cleans up the contacts on the relay so they can make nice, smooth, linear contact, increase our amount of surface area, and get rid of our carbon arc scoring that comes from the relay keying up. So, the case on the relay cleaned up acceptably. So now I'll put the relay back in. And now, let's get the heavy automotive super sticky stickum tape out. Yay. We'll trim this up. It had that white tape on it that, like Radio Shack double-sided stick tape on there. I'm giving these the old flick test, which means I'm heating this up and flicking it so I can throw all the solder off all the tabs and get this all cleaned up, because I want fresh, new solder. Okay, so once again, good high quality VHB double-sided stick tape. And also up inside the box, what we've done over here where the relay connects, as you can see, a perfectly clean spot where I've gone in there and I've removed all the oil and everything that would be from underneath the relay to make sure that this stuff will stick and it's going to stay. So now we're going to transfer over this stuff. So let's unsolder this. We'll clean these up, clean that up. Take the broke off legs that were snapped off of the old relay. Go ahead and tin these. Okay. One little $5 relay breaks, and the whole box is now worthless. It's dumb. It's not that I don't understand how the preamp works. I actually read that in a comment not too long ago. It's like, you didn't know how to make preamps. I don't want to build preamps, you guys. You're absolutely fooling yourself if you think there's anything inside this box I don't know or haven't tried to learn everything I could about it. That's not the case. Is that this is the weakest link in the chain, in my opinion. Go over, under, around, and then hold that in place. Solder that on. Relax for a minute. Solder that on. Relax for a minute. Disconnect this real quick. And I want to hook it over. Back out like so. Put this behind it. We'll hit this with good solid solder. Don't like the look of that joint, so let's fix this up a little bit better. There we go. Okay. This wire, let's straighten this out. I mean, I can't believe nobody can look at that and see how vulnerable that is to having problems. There's part of me wants to smother this whole thing in hot glue and pray that that's enough support. Okay, so we're going to torque this leg out and around because we're going to need to bring this back to case. And then I've got to just go hook up the rest of the wires and then we'll be able to put this back together. Now let me return that phone call I just missed because it's actually quite important. Okay, the relay is now installed. I mean, it's in here. Preamp is all completely redone. I went ahead and I redid this wire and this wire. I didn't like having the little solder nick in the insulation, even though it doesn't make any difference how it operated. It's still important. I went through and I add a snubbing diode. The snubbing diode is really important, believe it or not. As the relay discharges, because the key-in transistor charges up, drops a little bit of ground voltage into the coil, charges the coil up, coil gets magnetized, sucks down the contact, and allows the relay to work. When you unkey, the transistor stops being energized, cuts the relay off, and then the coil, the voltage starts to dissipate in the coil. And that voltage can grow, but the amperage drops. And it'll reach a point of like critical mass, I guess would be the best way to think about it. And there's a huge discharge voltage spike. Sometimes there can be hundreds of volts that will come out of the coil and jump back, and it can possibly damage the keying transistor. I didn't notice this when it was here before, but I went ahead and I thought, well, I got it out. Might as well just go ahead and put the snubber in there. If you put a diode across the two leads, of course the band goes to the positive side, which is going to be on this side. The ground's over here. As that voltage starts to climb, that diode's going to leak, and it's going to snub that voltage out. And it'll literally, the term is snub. It'll snub the voltage out of the coil. So the next time the transistor goes to fire, there's no voltage left in the coil. One, for it to overcome, you don't have to worry about it zipping back and taking out the key-in transistor. It's called snubbing diode. So we got that all done. So the only thing I got left that I need to do now is run this out, solder. I want to bend that up a little bit. Let's create ourselves a little bit more electrical clearance there. So let's grab our solder iron. This is the last thing I'm doing today. I've done 5 YouTube videos, probably 80 phone calls. Let's see if I can do this without blocking your guys' view. Let's go in here and add some solder to this thing. There. I'm going to hold that for a few minutes, just a couple seconds. There, now it's gone solid. So I don't have to worry about fatiguing the joint. Hold on a second. Move the camera around to the other side, make it a little bit easier for me to work. Take Grandma's old pliers here. Bend this back around. I don't ever make a big deal out of it, but it's really important that we've got a mechanical connection going on here, along with a physical connection. Believe it or not, it's pretty important. There's a little bit of electrical schmoo that's going to go on here. There. Okay. Well, that's that. This whole circuit's been rebuilt. And I feel very, very comfortable now that the relay is firmly down. And I mean firmly down. That this issue has been dealt with. I don't like none of this, but it'll work. Never cared for preamps in here. This is just, it's just a poor idea in my opinion. Okay, let's hook it up. I cannot mentally handle one more phone call today. I hit my limit, man. I hit the wall. Here, I've been, God, sorry. It's been a lot. There's been a lot going on in the background over here with this business that I haven't shared with you guys on YouTube, nor is it any of your all's business. And it's very hard to be the happy, chipper, quipper, let's say funny shit on YouTube all the time when you got all these other things going on. And I appreciate everybody's patience and just putting up with me, but my goddamn phone today. Holy cow. Okay, so here's the main cruxus of the problem. The guy probably would have hooked this thing up and probably went on with his day and been merrily happy. But this is the original keying circuit out of this box, and I wanted to show you this. Keep an eye on them legs. See how that's like broken? Well, that's the output side of the transistor. It says here, key up. Your ground source comes in on this leg. Your RF source comes on this leg. But the output signal that comes from the transistor to the relay is this leg. And this is what I could see on the pictures the guy sent me. And if he would have just been able to get his soldering iron down there and just touch these two legs together, it probably would have kept on chooching for another 2 decades. But when he come to me and he says, man, I can't physically do that job, I was like, okay, I'd much rather have this as our end result. Everything be cleaned up. I know for a fact the preamp's working now, at least it should work now. And everything in here is literally as close to new, where all the joints have been refurbed to where I feel I'll sleep better at night knowing it's this way. After seeing that we have this little tiny micro break in the leg and the transistor, this allows me to sleep better at night. So I'll spend a couple $100 to make sure this guy's happy. Now, I have not tested this. I don't know if this is going to work or not. It should. But you never know. We're working with parts that are only the best that China can supply the United States, which, let's face it, the little keying transistor that I just put in here that's new might be bad. Although I haven't had that happen yet with any of these that were in this batch. So let's turn the amp on, which down is on. I don't know why Arlen wired it like that, but he did. Preamp is working, sideband delay light's working. Let's see if this thing keys. It keys. Hello, audio. Making good power too. All right. We'll go up to 2x since we've exhausted the 1000 watt scale. We pinned it in the corner. Hello, audio. Turn the variable all the way up. Hello, audio. Pinned it in the corner. In the corner. Hello, 1 1. Okay, so we're making $2,000 with about 15-20 watts worth of drive. Check it out. Ooh, let's go over here. Let's go look at a watt meter. Okay, power off. We'll go down to 1x. Amplifier powered off. Hello, audio. About 10, 11 watts in there. Here, let's turn this up. Let's turn on that power supply. Crank that voltage up. Hello, audio. There's our infamous, very famous 2950 that does 20 watts worth of power. But you know what? I haven't had to replace the finals in that thing, knock on wood, for 5 years because I turned the radio down. All of a sudden the transistors got really tolerant to high input SWRs and stuff. So, that's the reason. By the way, that's the reason that I use a dual final radio that I have cranked way down. Like everybody's like, man, that's a new 2950. That thing should do 50, 60 watts. Right. When I have the radio cranked up to 50, 60 watts, guess what happens? Every time I put some balled up piece of shit on my workbench and I go to key it up to test it, and it has a high SWR above like 2.5, it blows the finals out of the radio. Or this thing, I can... It hurts nothing. Hurts nothing. Turn the amp on. Okay. Whoop. Latched right up. Hello. Oh, yeah, let's pin that sucker in the corner. Okay, so we're going to go down to 5x. 5x on the 0 watt meter. All right. Hello, audio. So we're getting 21 some change out of it. Hello, 11111. Oh, we're just cresting over that 20 here. Just change your point of view, and all of a sudden we're going to pick up 100 watts. Check it out. Hello, audio. Okay. I'm going to try something else while I'm here. Because I did have to move this coil around quite a bit to make this work. So if I go in here and I do some crazy tomfoolery like this, come on, we add a little bit more capacitance to this so that it gets solid again. Okay. Hello, audio. Check it out. I slid that capacitance tube out a little bit further than what it was when I last worked on it. And so what we're doing is we're compensating for the repair we did today. We're barely cresting $2,000, right? And everybody's like, oh, yawn. Oh. Check this out. Hello, audio. There's our 2300 watts. So we're back where we're at. Now, can I really, in all clear conscience, think that this resoldered tack that I just put on here is going to hold? No. No. I'm telling you, you guys out there in YouTube land, ye have little no faith in me. I swear. Okay. That'll hold it. That'll work. Hello, audio. Don't adjust this bar unless you know what you're doing, by the way. Don't do it. No, do it. Okay. Off. We're done. I'm done. This is done. This is more than adequately repaired. We're going to throw that in the F-it bucket. The moral of the story is I would rather spend a portion of one of my days and spend a little bit of money out of hand than have somebody walk away mad. Okay? This is through no fault of my own. No fault on the business over here in any means. And this is through no fault of the business or the customer's end. This is straight up UPS beating the shit out of shit. Now, in the same breath, that double-sided stick tape, I'm sure it was holding down a little bit, but it wasn't holding down a lot, not with all that dog hair and shit that was on it. So this is right. This is good. None of this will move. It's all soldered together well. We have mechanical connections where we need them. We've got physical connections where we need them. This is good. I'm going to call this a win for me and him. We're both going to walk away with our heads held up high and nobody's going to cry. You do this about 3 or 4 times a week on trying to help people out, and you start to feel like you're getting abused. Just straight up getting used. But sometimes you got to give a little with it. I'll make a little bit for everybody to be happy. So, at the end of the day, new key in circuit, shit's fixed. I'll put the lid on it. Fan on, fan off. Fan on. Hello, 111, hello, 1111. Hello, 11111111111. Hello, 1212. Okay. This is the end of my day. Oh, I'm taking my toys and I'm going home. I'm going to go play with other people. Gentlemen, thank God for every single one of you. I say thank you, and may we enjoy radio together. I am out of here. We'll see ya. Bye.